Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Cyber Resilience Skills 101 webinar series. My name is Luciano. I'm from the Customer Success Management team, and I'll be your moderator for this session. I'm pleased to welcome Michael LeBeau, a senior solutions consultant who will be presenting an in-depth overview of Quest Security Explorer. Michael will address your questions during the Q&A session at the very end of the presentation. This is today's agenda. We will cover how to gain clarity and control over NTFS permissions, repair broken inheritance for seamless access, and manage ACL migrations efficiently. We will also explore backup and restore functionalities to safeguard permissions, and strategies for comprehensive object management to enhance security. With that, I'll hand it over to Michael to begin with the session.
Thank you for joining us for Security Explorer Skills 101. I'm Michael LeBeau, Senior Solutions Consultant for Quest Software. Today I'll be leading the lesson on taking control of access management through Security Explorer. Unstructured data in any organization is an administrator's nightmare. Why? Because generations of people, training, operational philosophies have been applied to that data and its security at different times throughout the decades. There is but one standard, and that is that there are no standards. With Quest Security Explorer, control may be gained. Today, we'll delve into 4 different areas where Security Explorer is the solution to have. Those are scattered permissions, broken inheritance, migrations and restructuring, and securing your permissions. You'll see on the screen the Security Explorer's desktop. This is an application that can be installed on any administrator's desktop and can be used under their security context to be able to reach out to the domain and perform most of the security operations, especially across NTFS volumes. You'll notice in the interface that it's laid out to where there are tabs, so you can move through the browsing, through the search, to the status of your operations, and then back to the iconized task. You also have your data pane over to the right and the operational targets at the bottom left in what we call sliders. Of course, there's the standard menu bar and the buttons across the top. For this purpose, we'll mostly be working in the browse column. You'll notice here in this interface that you could easily navigate to your domain, to any one of your systems, and for the sake of our purpose, we'll be working in the user data share most of the time. You'll also notice that when you're looking at the permissions come in 2 different ways. You have this solid icons here, which show an explicit permission. You'll also see the icons being solid in the allow, or the type of permission that is being had. If we move to a subdirectory, you can see your solid permissions, or if we go into where there's inherited permissions, all of those icons are now wireframe, indicating that it is an inherited permission. So we'll give you several different ways in which to see how the permissions have been granted to the users on the surface of the solution. But the biggest thing that we need to focus on are the permissions. Anytime you have a data set or unstructured data, there is going to be a root directory. Typically, there'll be some permissions at that root directory that will be inherited to all the directories that have inheritance turned on. Oftentimes, you may need to grant some permissions to that directory and have that permission inherit all the way through. In this case, we can come in and grant permissions to any user or group that we have in Active Directory. We just choose whatever account that we want to grant some permissions to. And of course, those permissions can be granted through the standard permission sets that can be granted. What's nice about this interface is not only can we take one user, but we can also go in and take, for instance, if we had several different permission sets in which we needed to propagate, being those users or groups, we can take whatever the object is that we want to apply those permissions to, change those permissions, and we can add those permissions to the root automatically. Now, before we do anything with any kind of permissions, whether we're going to assign permissions or not. The one thing that we want to do as a good administrator is to be able to back up those permissions. Had we have gone ahead and performed this operation, we would have completely destroyed our security with no way back except to go in and very granularly remove or search for those permissions. So as a good administrator, let's go ahead and back up our permissions. And we can do that with Security Explorer very easily. And all I'm going to do is go in and tell it to update the app3 user data. It will tell me that I've already used this file before, and I'll agree to it. And we'll be able to process almost 2,000 objects in just as little as about 15 seconds. And we'll see that this process has completed in 11 seconds flat. And that gives us not only the backup of the security, but also the folder structure in which all of this data resides. Now back to what we were doing, we're going to grant some permissions, not only to a user, but also to a group in this directory structure. So this allows us to very quickly go back to what we were doing, going and granting our random user just the right permission, and then adding that to the interface, and then going ahead and grabbing an additional object. This time it'll be a group object, and you can go ahead and filter for that, or just rifle through and find a group that we want to grant some rights to, and then we'll modify those rights to say reading folder contents. This would allow me to grant permissions all the way through this directory tree quickly and easily, and then have those permissions show up as part of our permission set that we see below. This entire process took as little as 13 seconds to rifle through almost 1,200 objects, and you can see those two accounts listed now as having access to this data. So if we're going in, we want to find a particular folder. Take, for instance, we look through the folders and we find this B Brown folder, and these are all inherited permissions. If we had to go in and take control of that, we have the same controls we have within our standard interface, where we can go out and just copy those permissions. And if we wanted to remove any additional permissions, we have the ability to do that quickly and easily on any one of the folders, as we would with our native tools, although we do have quite a handy interface. Now, take, for instance, you wanted to be able to take an account and you wanted to grant this account access all the way through the directory tree. This would be a case where you have a new backup solution or something that needs access to all of your data. But when you're looking through your folders, you'll see that some of these folders do not allow inheritance. Now, this is going to be a problem because you don't know where the inheritance is broken. And in some directories, you have inheritance, in other directories, you do not. But you need to gain control over this entire directory, and you need to do it now. Well, Security Explorer can help you there as well. Take, for instance, we're going to go in and take an account that's well known to me. This is an account called SXP admin. If I could type, that'd be great. And we're going to take this account, we're going to grant it full control to this directory at the root, but we're going to select this include protected folders checkbox. This allows us to not only set the permissions at the root, but it'll also walk the entire directory tree, and anywhere that there's a broken inheritance chain or anywhere there's a folder that does not have inheritance turned on, it will make an explicit write of this account into that directory. So it actually has control explicitly. Just by clicking on OK, we have the same speed as we've seen before with Security Explorer, where these permissions will be propagated. And we'll see this process take less than a minute to complete. The 22 seconds, we now have this account applied at the root. However, if we go down to one of our folders where we know that we have inheritance broken, we can see that this account has explicit permissions, whereas when we have a folder where the inheritance is in place, SXP admin has been added as an inherited account. This gives us total control of that folder. And this is one of the primary features of Security Explorer, is being able to dominate when you need to go ahead and take control over all of the directories in an entire directory tree. A second problem that we ran into as we were talking about this is the inheritance. The inheritance is not configured consistently across the domain, where some folders will have inheritance, other folders will not have inheritance. This is the big problem because people can hide files and folders and try and sneak things out that way, and you need to gain control of all of those folders. Well, Security Explorer is no slouch in that department. If we select on the root and we right click, the first thing you have in your short menu is to be able to select the repair inheritance. And what this allows me to do is to select the root, where it will overwrite all the inheritance permissions. And then it can remove the duplicates. I do not have any duplicates in my directory tree at this moment, so that's going to be a moot point. And then it will recurse all folders all the way through the tree. This will allow the administrator in one fell swoop to be able to gain control through inheritance over an entire volume within the system. All we have to do is tell it, okay, this will remind us that this is going to cause problems in security if the security is not properly propagated through the inheritance system. So it's giving you a proper warning. Once we tell it, okay, it will very quickly go through all of these folders, all of these files, and set the inheritance appropriately across well over 2,000 different objects. Once this is complete, because we do cache our data, we will reload the directory and be able to see the inheritance being set for all of the folders. So in as little as 22 seconds, that process is done. I'll click on the reload button. This will go in and reread that directory to load it into cache. Once that process is complete, then we'll be able to go in and look at any one of the directories that had the inheritance broken. You'll see that inheritance has been restated all the way down the directory tree for that entire volume. This, in fact, gives you the ability to take a very large volume and gain control of it very, very quickly. Another use case that we've run into through Quest is migrations. Sometimes our customers want to perform the migrations by themselves, and they'll forget a very small piece of the migration, and that is their data. As long as we have both the source and the target domain still up and running in a migration, we have the ability to gain control over that data by flipping the ACLs from the source domain to the target domain, which is a very useful tool to have in very many different occasions. In this case, we'll use the clone group or user function within Security Explorer. Now, in this case, you have the ability to manually select users that you want to pair together. In this case, I can have anywhere where the administrators has some permissions, and I can grant that to another user. This could be in the same domain, or it could be in different domains. You do have options to clone the permissions, clone the ownership, clone the group memberships of the users, and then you can also replace the permissions with the destination permissions. And this is effectively a forklift, lifting and then replacing the permissions on the target directory that you have selected in the background here. And then, of course, you have the option to include the protected objects if you have not performed the repair the inheritance ahead of time. Now, this is not the only way to perform this, because doing this one at a time would be problematic. There is an automatic user and group selection. You can also look by SID history, or you can import through a user or group. Since the automatic selection takes a little bit of time to complete, because it does have to go out and read both directories and the data to see where there's a match. I've already done this on another system, and you can see it here where I've gone in and used my source domain as Scrapyard and my target domain as Maldemo. These two domains are trusted, and you'll see here that they have the same accounts on them. And what this will effectively do is allow me to swap anywhere where a Scrapyard account has some permission and replace that account with the SID from the accounts payable, in this case, from the Maldemo domain. This is an effective user or user or group to group swap of the ACLs. It's very effective in how it works, going out and looking at the source domain and the target domains and swapping the ACEs for each one of the accounts within the ACLs of the data selected. So this is something that does take a lot of time to do, so I'm not going to perform this operation here. Just understand that this is available in case you happen to paint yourself in a corner through a migration. Now, in the other things in the migration is sometimes you have to go out and search for certain accounts and where they have some rights. In this case, we've gone in and we've replaced the process. You'll see that the human resources group has read permission on folders, but the human resources group is no longer doing that. We've automated that process, and we need to find everywhere where the human resources group has some permissions, and we want to replace them with another group. In that case, we can use our search function. The magic in the search function is that it works for not only NTFS permissions, but share, security, registry, printers, services, and task as well. But in this case, we're just going to use it for our NTFS. In this case, our search scope is going to be nothing more than one of our servers that we have within our system. So with this, we'll go ahead and select the app server 3, so we know we're using that server. And if we want to get more specific, we can expressly choose the user data share on that system. And of course, if we wanted to go in and take off one of these, we have the ability to call that. In this case, I'm really looking for the human resources. So we'll go ahead and put in that group. So we have that group expressly listed. In this case, we can look at the group memberships. We can include group and or user results. Users don't really matter here. And then I'm looking for where that group has explicit permissions. So I want to know exactly where those permissions have been delegated. This allows me to go out and very quickly find where human resources has some permissions. And you'll notice that this is at the root. I happen to know that it's only at the root, so I'm going to stop that search. But this allows me to do this magical solution of being able to go out and replace the users that I'm looking for. And then if I want to go out and find users, whether it's going to be in an entire directory up in Scrapyard, or it's going to be somewhere else, I can choose that. And then the group I'm looking for is called Data Scanner. So we'll go ahead and select that group. And we're going to go ahead and replace everywhere where human resources had some permissions with the Data Scanner group. This allows me to not only go out and replace the permission on everywhere where a group had some permission in an entire volume. And this allows me to do that mechanically without any misses, way better than having to do it manually. Not only is it more complete, but it is faster. And this process does take about a minute to complete across all of the objects that we have in this directory. All right, so this is a fantastic way to be able to go out and find and replace any kind of permissions that you may have within the directory. So this took 41 seconds to go out and complete that. If we were to go out and search again, you would not find human resources anywhere within this folder or the share because it doesn't exist anymore. If we were to go out and browse for this, look at the user data, you'll see that Data Scanner has the read permission, the exact permission that human resources once had. A couple other things that we can do with this solution is that if you have certain permissions that you need to copy or a permission set that you want to copy from one directory to another, you could easily do that. All you have to do is tell it to copy the permissions, whatever permissions it is that you need. Now, depending on where you want to go with these permissions, I'm going to bounce out of that directory and say I want to paste these permissions here. I could go ahead and paste these permissions. You will notice that all 4 of those permissions are listed here, and all I need to do is tell it okay, and it will instantly grant those permissions to another directory, giving me one more way in which I can facilitate the resetting of the permissions anywhere that I need them within a directory. One of the other pieces that we have with this solution that's quite handy is when you have to delegate permissions that are not part of a standard permission set, is we have permission templates within Security Explorer. This allows you to go out and create another permission template. And this allows you to create things like modern security sets, for instance, where you may not want to grant full control, but you want to grant the read, write, execute, but you can't delete. But you might be able to not be able to read the attributes, or you don't want to read the subfolders, something of that nature. Again, you can hamstring yourself very carefully with this. I'm just going to grant some here, but this allows you to have a custom permission set. And if you wanted to go out and grant that custom permission set to one of your users, you now have that allow modern, and you can also have a deny with that permission. But what that does is it goes ahead and applies the special permissions as prescribed in that template to that user. Just a quick way to go out and be able to set your permissions in a very customized fashion. Once this is complete, I tell you what, we'll just cancel this in the case of time. We'll move forward. Other things that you can do with this solution is you've already seen the ability to back up the data. And we've made a lot of changes to this. So what else can we do with that backup and that recovery? Well, with this backup, take for instance, if I wanted to compare what this backup looks like compared to what we've done today, I can take the backup as we took at the beginning of this meeting, and then let me do this the right way. We want to restore these permissions. And this allows me to go out and take that backup that we did earlier today and compare it to what we have with our permissions now. I'll show the differences, which causes it to reload, and I can include files with this. Once I open this up, you will notice that you'll have red text. This is indicating that there is a change in that directory, and every one of these directories are going to be modified. And you can see, because the current permissions have these 4 permissions added to it, and the one permission that we changed, the human resources, is what was there originally. And if we look at any one of these directories, any change that we've done can be listed here. And for the directories where you had additional permissions added, that's also exposed. So if we want to restore these permissions, we could do this quite easily just by going in there and selecting all of the directories and then restore. But there's some options that we should explore. Keep in mind that we can restore the permissions and the ownership. We can also restore missing folders. This would be great if we needed to restore just the folder structure, reackle the folder structure, and then we can move the data into a reackled folder structure on another device. We can do that. We can also restore to a different path. And this allows us to, say we had to move data in a hurry because the spindle was going bad, we could move the data off the disk after we back up the security. What that does is allows us to move the data onto a whole nother system, which we will lose our security. And then with Security Explorer, because we have the backup and the ability to restore to a different system in the network, as long as we can attach to that system, we can restore the permissions back to the data on that new system, which is a nice to have, especially if you're in an emergency situation. You also have the ability to restore your permissions where you can override all the permissions. You can append those permissions and or restore only from the accounts in the backup, and then append the permissions to the existing permissions, so you can augment the permissions that you do have, as well as setting filters for your backup and restore. This allows you the best of all worlds, is to be able to move your data, restore the security, and be able to ensure access to that data. For the sake of time here, we're going to go in and take all of these directories, restore the permissions to their original known good value, and be able to allow the users back to their data without having it corrupted in any way. So this process, again, will take less than a minute to complete over 2,000 objects. Once that is done, we can have that run in the background. Do note that once we have the permissions restored, we do want to go out and reload our directory. Once that is done, you'll see the permission set being restored to where it should be. Now, Security Explorer does have the ability to go onto systems and manipulate the permissions that you have on any one of the shares that you might have on your system. You can also go into the registry and manipulate the registry within the system as well. This is not something that's done very often in the registry, but you can go to any one of the hives and set the permissions there. Printer security is very important because you now have mop ears. Mop ears are effectively computers on the network, and you do need control who's got access to those printers because there has been some hacks launched through printers. And then you have your services. Most of us have gone to a GMSA by now, but always there's some service accounts that will not run under GMSA. And oftentimes you do need to be able to go out and change those passwords. Security Explorer can help you there as well. As always, we do need to set a search scope. And in this case, it can be an entire OU to where I can go in and select, say, my server's OU, where I have multiple servers there. And then I can go in and look for a logon account that contains perhaps my domain name. And just looking for that, this will go out and it will peruse multiple servers very quickly, finding all the services that are in fact running underneath a service account with the scrapyard / username. I can group them by account and then select just the accounts that I need. You will notice that these can be across multiple servers. And with this, I can go in and set the properties, set the logon, change the logon for that account, and restart the service after making that change. So all I have to do is provide the password. As long as I have the rights to change the password in the domain and on the servers, this will change the password on the domain, start to refresh that around the domain controllers, and then we'll change the password on the services, restarting the services for you. And of course, if a service is not started, as this one is indicated, you could always right click and start that service, and it will send the start request to that service from this location. Services are great. It's a fantastic way to go out and find and start and control your services, especially if they're using a domain account. You can also go out and look at your tasks that are being performed on each one of your systems. And it will surprise most of our administrators at just how many tasks are running on the system, how many tasks are there queued, running or not running. It's a matter of drill down into those different tasks, and those will be listed. And of course, then you have your users and your groups. The purpose for this was to handle the local accounts on the systems. And back in the day, they told us to change the administrator account name to something else so people wouldn't find administrator. Well, that's pretty much doesn't work. And so there's still some of those out there. We have the search ability to go and look for the RID 500 where we could quickly find your administrator account. All you have to do is set your scope for this, and this will allow you to very quickly go out and identify all your administrator accounts, especially those that are not named as the administrator. And then once you've identified all your administrator accounts, if I do have any of those left, you can right click, select them all, and you can change the password for all the administrators across all your systems, whether it be a server or a workstation. This is a nice to have, especially when you get into a bad situation where that password has been compromised for whatever reason. There's lots of things that can be done with Security Explorer. The design was around security, especially on NTFS. So if you do have a problem with NTFS that you need to be able to search and remediate any kind of security issues, Security Explorer is the tool to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We're now open for the Q&A section. Please submit your questions through the chat and we will do our best to answer them. In the meantime, we would love for you to join us for the next installment of our Skills 101 webinar series on March 19th. As you can see on the screen, this one will be for Change Auditor. The topic was Predict, Prevent, Protect, your security shield for Active Directory and Entra ID. You can register by scanning the QR code on the left side of your screen. We also appreciate if you take a brief moment of your time to complete our survey link by using the QR code on the right side of the screen. With that said, we will wait a few more minutes to address your questions. I'll let Michael answer that, and we look forward to hearing from you. We do have a question. Michael says, assume a service type of
Hang on,
account.
he's already answered it in the comments.
Oh, did
I've
he?
already,
Oh, okay. My
but
bad.
the simple answer is that Security Explorer runs under the security context of the logged on user. There's no secure service account required for this solution.
Okay. There is another question. Can Security Explorer be used on a NAS device?
Yes, Security Explorer can be used on most NAS devices. We've had a couple of them that have minor communication issues, but it's been very few and far between. All of your popular NASs, such as NetApp, EMC, all work swimmingly with Security Explorer.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
I will be here for a few more minutes to answer any questions you may have.
Well, looks like we're good, Luciano. We can probably wrap it up.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate your participation. I want to say a big thank you to Michael for sharing his expertise. If you have any further questions, please visit our support portal at support.quest.com. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar on March 19th for Change Auditor, and have everyone a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye. We do have another question. Does Security Explorer have the capability to classify the data in shares? Let me put myself here. Let me get that answer from you. Okay, I think Michael is there. It says, no, it does not do data classification. That will be the answer to your question. Okay. If you're still with me, that is the answer to your question. Some Security Explorer does not do data classification, so hopefully that helps. I'm still not sure if you are on the meeting still, so I'll be sending that information to you via email. So just let me know if you have any questions. If not, I will wrap it up and end the meeting. And we do appreciate all the inquiries you have. Okay, I'll leave it as is for today. And thank you for joining, and have a nice rest of your day. Bye.